Hi guys, welcome to Wrestling Retrospective. In this video, I'll be doing my review of AEW All Out. The main show started with MJF versus Daniel Garcia in a match that was pretty decent. I very much enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the match as much as I thought, but I feel like we're going to get a continuation from this feud at some point. When I'm not sure, as apparently Garcia hasn't signed and MJF is going to wait for a bit, which I assumed would be the case after the fact that Garcia took him out after the match. The match itself was really good. I thought that MJF got the majority of the offense in, which I was surprised about, but it kind of helped Garcia in a way of like he showed his resiliency and kind of had the babyface push near the end of the match. Multiple times MJF was hitting brutal strikes to get back into the match, which I thought was really good and something we haven't seen from Max in a while. What I didn't expect was some more technical wrestling out of this one, them both using multiple submissions at one point. I expected this more to be like a fight rather than a wrestling match, so I was very surprised to see the likes of submissions to be used in this one. Especially the brutal one, but where Max literally had every limb apart from like his right leg to try and get him with submission, I thought was really cool and really offensive way to get towards that win, and obviously was very lucky to get the leg onto the ropes. But yeah, I thought it was the finish itself. I know it was like very unexpected. I didn't expect it to go that way. I didn't expect MJF to win at all. But then, it's since come out that Garcia hasn't re-signed yet, and it was a very much on the day decision to have MJF win if reports are to be believed, which makes sense. But I also think that this is a clever way to do it, just to make this feud continue. I feel like Garcia and MJF will meet again at some point if Garcia resigns, and I feel like they're going to have a probably more, I don't want to say a swerve and hangman type thing, but I feel like they're going to go towards the violence of that type of match, which I'm very much looking forward to if we do get that to that point. But yeah, I think the fact that Garcia got the last laugh kind of sent the people home happy, if you will, with giving him a power driver off the top rope, which is brutal. And yeah, since then, again, if reports are to be believed, MJF is going to do a film or something. And it makes sense that MJF is away. I put on my notes that MJF will be away for a bit after this before hearing those reports. So I think that's a good idea. I feel like they're going to, if Garcia does re-sign, I feel like MJF will probably cost him another big match, and then we'll continue with that feud going from there, which I think is really cool. But yeah, it's something I'm looking forward to seeing happen in the future, hopefully. And yeah, the match itself was a really good way to start off the show, and I think it was a good indication of what was to come for this pay-per-view. Following that, we had the Young Bucks defeat Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club to retain the tag team championships in a match that was decent. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it would go missing on a Dynamite. Yuta, I think, had the best showing in the match. He probably would have been the MVP. I thought that he was absolutely killing it throughout the match. The Bucks stole the victory, and I think it makes sense to have this story continue, though obviously later on in the night I don't think they are going to continue this feud, I'm going to be honest with you. But yeah, I've not got much to say about this one. It was just an alright tag team match. Like, nothing really progressed. It felt very thrown onto the card. It makes sense it went on second. Yeah, it just gives the Bucks, I think it was a case of getting Bucks on the show because it was a Chicago show and the whole thing with Punk and all that. I don't think people care as much now as they did probably a year ago. Therefore, it kind of didn't make sense. I would have preferred if this wasn't on the show and we maybe got a match between Jamie Hayter and Saraya instead, which they set up quite nicely to be All Out. And then they, for whatever reason, haven't put it on the show, which doesn't make much sense to me. But yeah, I mean, it was a decent match. They're two top tag teams, so of course they weren't going to put a bad match on. But nothing really progressed with this one. The Bucks just got another title match. They've defended the titles again, therefore they kind of don't have to defend them probably for a while now, which is a shame, but I can see it really going that way. And obviously the Blackpool Combat Club we will talk about in a bit when it gets to Danielson and Perry. Following that, we had the International Championship match where Will Ospreay retained against Pac in what was a brilliant match. But did you really expect anything less from these two? Like, Pac's German suplex and then reverse Hurricane Rana on the apron were brutal. Especially the German suplex, the way that Ospreay landed was awful, and especially knowing that there was tape there and he clearly wasn't 100% in that area, to land that awfully was like fair play to Ospreay and respect for taking that. The crowd was absolutely electric for this one from the beginning. They were chanting holy shit just because of the match was happening, which is always a cool moment when the fans are going crazy before they've even looked up. I probably would have said that Pac won on points. I thought that he controlled the match for the most part, but Ospreay, as we all know by now, can get back into a match in an instant, and that was kind of the case with this one. The finishing sequence for this match was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was probably one of the best closing sequences of a match I've probably seen in a long time, probably since Omega and Ospreay back at Forbidden Door last year. I thought that Pac maybe went for the reverse Rana one too many times, and this is what kind of cost him the match almost. But yeah, like, just fantastic wrestling from both. Definitely an all-timer, and it's actually a shame because this match is, I don't feel like the match has had as much of a kind of overall look at, or I don't know how to put it. It's just that people aren't talking about this match as much as I think they should be, because the street fight that I'll talk about in a moment was so good, because Swerve and Hangman was spectacular, that this match kind of has gone under the radar almost, which is unbelievable because it was so good. Like, yeah, it's kind of a match. I found this like a few times in this pay-per-view where it was a match that you just didn't want to finish. So every time someone went for a pin, you wanted them to kick out. Speaking of like pins and that, I thought it was really cool that Ospreay literally had to get Pac to a point where he looked out of it to be able to get the win in this one. I thought it was really cool. The close calls I thought were really well done here. Like, they were incredibly close to a point where like I'm not stood up, I've come out of my chair to sit on the floor just to gilt it to the TV because it was so bloody good. But yeah, definitely go check this one out if you haven't already, because it is an all-timer for sure. And I don't get how it's kind of fallen under the radar as much as it has, because I know that a lot of things were good on this show, but this was definitely a massive highlight for this show for 100%. After that, we had the street fight between Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander that I could have sworn was going to be for a championship, but it wasn't. I'm pretty sure that Statlander won an eliminator match for the CMLL Women's Championship. We're clearly going to do that another time, or we're going to forget that even happened. But either way, it doesn't matter, because we got a absolutely outstanding street fight out of it. I don't know what it is about the AEW Women's Division, but when it comes to a street fight, they go out there and they kill each other for our entertainment. So thank you for that. And yeah, it was just a fantastic match from start to finish. I thought that the action never stopped. The extreme parts of it were very bloody extreme, but even from the beginning, like, Willow absolutely took it to Statlander. That cannonball to like start, I think it was like Willow's second move in was the cannonball, and my god, she threw into Statlander. I'm surprised Statlander got past that part, but not even knowing what was to come, I thought it was brilliant. Like, the fact they got rid of the Stokely Hathaway like problem pretty early into the match, I thought was really cool. But yeah, the light tube spot I did not even see coming. I didn't even realize there was a light tube out there, and I marked out when it happened. I thought it was fantastic. The splits into the tacks I thought was a really innovative way to do that spot. Obviously, like, everyone does the thumbtack spot like at this point, and yeah, it was a really clever way to do it, and a very way to get people to remember that happened as well, because it has been all over my social media since it happened. And yeah, just like really smart as well. And yeah, I was pretty speechless afterwards. And what I found with this match was, I knew I was enjoying it because every time someone went for a pin, I didn't want the match to end. I had the same with Ospreay and the same with Swerve and Hangman. It was just a case of I didn't want this match to end at all. I wanted it to keep going and keep going and keep going. But yeah, I thought the finish was great. I loved this match, and I think that the women need way more respect on how they do Extreme Rules matches and street fights and whatever, because essentially WWE have the tools to be able to do this kind of thing as well, but they won't because of probably TV stuff like that. But even on pay-per-view they could do it anyway, and they obviously choose not to. I feel like we should be getting a similar thing with Rhea and Liv, kind of with their feud, about like that's how this should be going, but it's kind of not, and it's really annoying the fact that WWE won't do it this way. So respect to AEW for like just letting the women go out and just fucking kill each other, because that's what the feud needs. But you know, just in case she's watching, even though she really won't be, Mercedes Moné needs to take notes on how to follow Will Ospreay, because this match is how you do it, and it was absolutely fantastic. I cannot give this match any more praise, because like it just was spectacular. It was probably one of the best women's street fights I've ever seen, and yeah, I loved it from start to finish. After that, we had the Fatal 4-Way match for the Continental Championship, where Kazuchika, oh my god, I can't even say, Okada retained the championship against Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, and Orange Cassidy in a match that was really fun and really good. I thought that it was like a really well-placed match, pretty much dead down the middle. I thought it was a really good place for this one, and it was fun and really enjoyable. There was no real massive highlights for this one other than just like the fact it was a spot fest for a while, and yeah, it all just worked really well. I thought that Takeshita was more or less the MVP of the match, and my opinion is I was very much going to the thought of, if Takeshita doesn't win here, he wins at World's End and he kind of goes through the Continental Classic and then wins it that way kind of thing. So it'll be him versus Okada at World's End, I would assume. That's probably the way I'd do it, in a way that I think would be really enjoyable, especially as Takeshita had such a good showing in the G1. Apparently, I didn't watch it, so I can't really say whether he did or not. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought that though it was very thrown together, this match, it just went really well and was really fun and enjoyable. And yeah, just positives all around for me. Okada retains, which I expected for the most part. But man, give Takeshita a title already, because he more than deserves it. And if we have to wait till World's End and get Okada versus Takeshita one-on-one, I will wait, because that match would be bloody incredible. Next up, we have Mercedes Moné successfully retain the TBS Championship against Hikaru Shida in what was a decent match. The match position obviously didn't affect this one too much, like All In, but I feel like Mercedes Moné had that kind of added pressure of having to follow up on Britt Baker match, which obviously wasn't received very well. This was better. I feel like, well, it was more than better. It was a lot better than the Britt Baker match, which I thought was very good. The match was okay. I thought it was another good match for Moné, but what fell flat for me was the fact that how predictable it was. I couldn't see Shida winning this match at any point. Also, Shida only had a shot like 3-4 weeks ago, therefore, you know, it didn't make any sense to have this match in the first place. Out of everyone in the Fatal 4-Way match that they had for this match, I maybe would have had Moné go against someone like Serena Deeb or a Queen Amanita, just because he's just somebody different to have Moné feud with. I feel like Shida was probably not the best choice. Even Thunder Rosa, I know I'm not a big fan of hers, probably would have been a better choice here, but you know, it's fine. It was good for what it was. I do find it very weird that we've not seen Britt Baker since All In. I wonder whether there's something to do with that. I know that they kind of addressed it in the media scrum. I haven't watched the media scrum, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But what annoyed me the most about this match, it almost ruined it in a way, was the fact that Shida had the advantage going into the finishing sequence of the match, and then she had the kendo stick in the ring. I think Mercedes brought it in, and then she was going to use it, but then she hesitated and chose not to use it, even though it wouldn't have made sense for her to use it in the first place. Like, she was winning the match at the time. I think she'd hit like at least one katana, had the match won, and then did this whole hesitating with the kendo stick, and it ended up costing her the match because she got distracted, and then Mercedes hit a crappy finisher, and then yeah, that was it. Like, Mercedes Moné's finisher is not believable. I don't care how many times I have to say it on here. Mercedes Moné's finisher would not keep anyone down for 3, let alone like someone for the likes of Shida or Baker or Willow or anybody like that. It's crap. But yeah, it's just the whole sequence at the end just didn't make any sense to me at all, and it kind of ruined the match for me in a way. Like, I don't see it as a particular high standard. I thought that Willow and Statlander absolutely stole the show for the women, and they were kind of at a disadvantage going in, and where they could have proved to everyone that women can not only street fight but also do great wrestling. They didn't do that in a way, and they kind of made it very confusing for the viewer, I thought, which is a massive shame, because these two had the potential to put on a great match, and we know how good Shida is, especially, you know, how much AEW trusts her, you know, being a 3-time women's champion. Mercedes Moné is good, we know this as fact, and yet this just really didn't fall well for me, in my opinion. But yeah, I said it was a good match apart from the ending, but yeah, I mean, Mercedes was never losing here, which ruins pretty much all her matches because we know who's going to win. So in what was your official main event, we had Bryan Danielson to successfully retain the AEW World Championship against Jack Perry in what was a decent match. Again, it was very good. It was better than I expected it was going to be, mainly because it proved that Jack Perry could kind of hold his own in a main event spot, which I think was really cool, and I think it was a clever way of doing it, because Jack Perry had set up for this shot anyway. He said that he deserved it for beating Darby Allin, who's the number 1 contender for the world title as of now, and the fact that, you know, he pinned Danielson in Anarchy in the arena. So everything made sense for this match. Also, Jack Perry in Chicago, again, is just one of those things that kind of works. No matter what happens, he got booed out of the building. So it makes perfect sense to have this match here. But yeah, I thought Jack Perry looked really good in defeat. I like the way that he kind of sacrificed himself for the final Psycho knee. I thought it was a really good touch. I thought it was a great sell by Perry as well for both Psycho knee he took. I preferred the first one. But yeah, the second one was really cool. He really took it to Danielson as well. It wasn't like a case of he controlled for the most part and then Danielson brought it back. Like, Perry probably would have won on points, to be fair. But, you know, I thought the second Psycho knee was going to be it, but it was actually a third one that took it. And yeah, I thought it was really cool. I would have laughed massively if the Bucks interfering actually cost Danielson the match and Jack Perry had won the world title in Chicago. I think it would have been a really interesting way of doing it, and I feel like at some point we're going to get this kind of big group heel title. I don't know how to put it. It's like someone in a group will have a title match. All the heels get involved and they'll actually cost them the match. So I feel like we've done this a few times where like people will get involved and almost cost the babyface the match, but then the babyface will eventually prevail. I feel like eventually in AEW, if it's not happened already, but I can't think of anything from my thing apart from maybe Omega beating Moxley. That like I think it's more a case of like that shock win. Having Jack Perry win that match would have been a massive shock. Obviously, it's hard to shock people when they know what the main event's going to be, well, the actual main event. But yeah, I feel like it would have been like a really massive moment. But obviously, again, they're not going to want Danielson to retire due to Perry, so that made perfect sense. After the match, we had a teased Christian Cage cash in of the contract thing that he has, where a stare off between Kill Switch and Jack Perry, which I thought was a really good touch for all of this. And it was really clever how they did the heel turn of the BCC, how they kind of stopped Christian Cage and Christian Cage had nothing to do with them. When Christian Cage came out and he came face to face with Moxley, I thought it was just going to be Moxley and saving Danielson, and then Moxley was going to take out Danielson and cost him the title, and then Danielson actually wouldn't have retired after losing the title. He would have had one more match with Moxley, but that wasn't the case. Instead, it was very weird, in my opinion. It's got me very, very curious because it was Claudio, Pac, and Moxley that turned. Yuta doesn't seem to have turned, though it made it clear that he knew something was going to happen because Pac was holding him back, but Yuta wasn't fighting him at all. He was just accepting the fact that this was happening. So I wonder whether like Yuta knew they were turning, but then didn't realise how they were turning with the whole plastic bag thing. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool way of doing it. It's something very different, the whole plastic bag. I thought that it was very funny how Danielson died due to the thing he hates the most, which is plastic. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool way of doing it. I'm very curious to see where Yuta stands on this, especially as he's like 1/3 of the trios champions with Pac and Claudio, who left with Moxley, but then Yuta left with Danielson, so I wonder how that's going to play out. I assume we're getting Moxley versus Danielson 2, the rematch from Revolution a couple of years ago, which was a great match. So, and obviously that match finished in a bit of controversy because Danielson's shoulders weren't on the mat. So I'm glad we're getting that rematch. I assume it will be at Wrestle Dream. And for me, yeah, it makes sense that Moxley would retire Danielson, and I feel like that puts not only the title in jeopardy, but Danielson as well when it comes to Wrestle Dream, if that is the way they're going. But for me, I thought the heel turn was done really well. The match was very good, and it has a lot more questions coming out of it rather than answers. I was going to do a video on who I thought was going to be in John Moxley's new group. I might do that anyway and just kind of edit it a little bit. But yeah, I thought that this was really well done. It makes sense that Pac and Claudio would side with Moxley. And yeah, I said this has got me very curious to see what's next for Danielson, what's next for Yuta, and got me incredibly interested in this new group for John Moxley, unless they're not a new group, it's just going to be the next iteration of the Blackpool Combat Club. And finally, what was your unofficial main event? We had Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page go at it inside a steel cage in what for me was the match of the night. And yeah, it just was absolutely spectacular. I loved it from start to finish. I loved how they had Swerve attack Hangman while the cage was lowering, so then Prince Nana could bring all these different weapons in. I think it was only a table, chair, cinder block. It was cinder block and the staple gun, I think. I felt like there might have been a chain in there as well, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. No, I don't think it was. I think it was just the staple gun and the cinder block and all that stuff. And yeah, man, this was so good. Like, I was so hyped for this match before it even started, before the pay-per-view even started. It was the match I was most interested in. Did they top the Texas Death Match? Kind of, in a way. Like, if the finish hadn't have been what it was, I would have said the Texas Death Match was better. But my God, that finish was brutal in every way you could possibly put it. Like, I don't think I've seen anything like that in wrestling ever. Like, to have someone use a needle to take someone, like, we don't even know what was in the needle. We just knew there was a needle and Hangman did something to him, and then the chair shot from fucking the annals of JBL and The Undertaker that absolutely brought shockwaves through the arena, because that shit was brutal. I don't care what he says about, like, oh, Swerve wasn't safe. It was probably Swerve's idea to do it this way. And man, just like everything about it was so good. The feud itself was spectacular. I wonder whether we're finished with it here. I can't see it being the case, though. I can see like Swerve now taking some time away and kind of maybe even like Hangman gets a shot at his finally gets a shot at the world title, and Swerve costs him again, and we have to do this all over again. But yeah, just everything about this was bloody spectacular, and just the whole match was a highlight. It was, again, a match that I just didn't want to end. Every time someone went for a... I didn't go for pins, did he? It was just every time someone stayed down for a long time, I thought, oh, fuck, here we go, it's going to finish. And luckily it wasn't the case, and I thought at one point maybe they were going to break the cage and fight everywhere, but that wasn't the case either. But yeah, just everything about it was brilliant. I just loved it, and it was a massive... The whole thing was a highlight, and honestly, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Unless you're squeamish, then probably don't watch it. The staple gun again, awful. The state of Hangman's back by the end of this, after being dropped on the cinder block, stapled in the back, you know, all this other stuff was just, it looked awful. It looked like fucking a butcher had been to Hangman's house. But yeah, so I can't give enough positive feedback for this match and this feud in general. It just has been an all-timer. And yeah, I think Swerve vs. Hangman is going to go down in the annals of AEW history as probably one of the best feuds. The Rock, you know, the Rock, Stone Cold of the place, the Hogan Savage of the place, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be up there, as well as Hangman and Omega probably. But yeah, so absolutely fantastic way to end an absolutely fantastic show for me, and 100% match of the night. So those are my thoughts and opinions on a absolutely fantastic show from AEW. Again, All Out last year was very good. All Out this year was just as good, if not better. I thought that the whole 2-week build worked in good ways and bad. It was a blessing and a curse. I feel like they set up stuff beforehand. They said, like, Hangman and Swerve obviously was the big one that was set up beforehand. Ospreay and Pac was pretty simple to set up. Pac was #1 contender, so it's pretty simple. MJF and Garcia was set up maybe a few more weeks in advance, and Statlander and Willow's been going on for a while as well. So, you know, they kind of culminated some good feuds here and kind of works really well. I think but again, some things didn't work as well. Monet and Shida probably wasn't as good as it could have been. Danielson and Perry was fine for what it was. But I think overall the show was absolutely fantastic and one of the better shows AEW has put on. Like, it had a bit of everything. It had incredible wrestling from MJF and Garcia to Ospreay and Pac absolutely killing it, and we also had some really extreme stuff. The turn of the BCC, Willow and Statlander, and of course Hangman and Swerve just went out there and killed each other for the sake of killing each other. But it all made sense. We have come out with more questions and answers as far as Danielson and BCC go, which is something to look forward to as far as Dynamite goes. But yeah, you know, tell me what you thought of the show down in the comments. I don't know what's happening to my voice, but yeah, I mean, overall, fantastic show. Do put down in the comments what you thought of the show, what you enjoyed, what your favourite match was, what you think's next for Danielson. Are we going to get Danielson Moxley? Is Moxley going to target Darby Allin still? I don't really get what's going to go on there. Obviously, Moxley wants something to do with Darby Allin, and with him being the one contender for the World Championship next. I wonder whether that'll play into stuff. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, do put a like on the video. Put in the comment that you enjoyed it. It's good for the algorithm, apparently, according to other YouTubers. But yeah, I'll thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.